I have found another standing dead tree that there's a lot of dry material inside of it. Just want to peel this stuff back. And when you do, you'll find dry stuff in there. This part right here is really valuable. Like I said, this red part of the cedar burns really well, lights really well. So if you can find some of that stuff, see, that's completely dry. Even though it's been raining for hours, and it's raining right now. So I'm gonna come back and get some more of that stuff. Over here, I noticed this tree has some peeling bark. Sometimes you can find some of this bark that might be dry. There it is, right there. So there's, on that underside, there's dry fibers that we can peel away from the wet side of the bark and use it also. And so here's another log with some tree litter up against it. Let's see what we got here. Yep, there's a couple of dry pieces, or mostly dry. And so, you know, when you're doing this, when you're trying to build a fire in really bad conditions, snow and wind and rain or whatever, you've got to treat it like you're lighting this with one match and you only got one shot at it. So you want to have all your materials already collected and ready to go. You don't want to get a little bit of kindling and a little bit of tinder, light a fire, and then go off and find all of your wood. You want to have it all, enough of it gathered already to get a good fire going that you know is not just going to blow out when you walk off to go find some wood to put on the fire. So keep that in mind also. So this is the betoning that I was telling you about. So you can split that open, and inside there that's all dry. And you just keep splitting it because you want the pieces really small. You like that little thin piece right there is perfect for getting a fire going. These have the outside bark on it that's still pretty wet, so they're not as good, but it's those middle pieces that you're after. The pieces of the center of the wood. that little piece right there. And then these other pieces that, you know, they've got part of the outside of the bark on it, the wet side is still on it. You can still use those to get the to feed the fire after you've got it going, because the fire will dry that edge out. So I'm just going to keep batoning all of this down to small pieces, and then once you get it to a certain thickness, you don't even have to have the log to hit it with. You can just kind of split it all up by hand. You can also do a feather stick, which I'm probably not going to have any luck doing today. Well, it is going to work. So you can peel the little pieces back like this, and see how it's kind of creating a feather effect. And then you can, all that little thin stuff will catch fire a lot easier too, because it's so thin and it just curls right up. Usually cedar doesn't work as well on that, but see that right there? That'll catch fire real good. So you can make little feather sticks like this. Little pieces of tinder. So I'm just going to finish splitting these up. We've gathered up enough material now between all of this and what I've got in my possibles bag that we're going to be able to make a pretty good fire. Oh man, looks like my lens is all fogged up, making the video not very good. I apologize for that. Let's see if we can't fix that up. All right, everybody, I've got my possibles laid back, my possibles bag laid out on the ground so that I can sit on my dry wood down and not be setting it on wet leaves and all that. I've got my fire kit out, and I've scraped back some of these leaves to build this little fire right here. Now if I were camping, or if I were in a kind of a survival situation, I would clear out a better spot and I would lay out some rocks if I was going to be here, you know, more than just enough time just to show you guys how to build a fire. But for what I'm doing, this will be fun, because as soon as I show you guys how to do this, I'm just going to put the fire out. So I'm going to set the camera up and show you how I get this going. I'm going to put down these leaves first. Now that is going to protect my wood from the wet ground. I've also got those pieces of tissue inside my fire kit. It'll kind of help protect that from soaking up a bunch of water immediately. Hopefully the lighter still works. Oh, okay. I'm going to separate all the smallest stuff before I get my tissue out and put it down, because once I get my tissue out, it's going to start drawing moisture. So I want to have all my tiniest pieces of wood ready first. All the smallest, driest stuff ready to go. So I'm going to separate out the pieces that I want. Put them all in a separate pile. It's mostly by size and dryness. Again, the smaller it is and the drier it is, the easier it lights. And that's what we want on the bottom of the pile. if we can get that smallest stuff going, then we got it licked. It's all about getting that littlest stuff going, and then as long as you've got your other material already gathered like we do, then it's all pretty easy from that point on.